boys and girls and boys of all ages over 18, of course, because that's how it goes on my channel. Thank you for joining me once again, where people continue without let or hindrance to be wrong on the interwebs. They continue to be recidivist offenders. They continue to be Alan Mandell. Yeah, let's have a look at his splash screen here just for fun. It says, the medical information on this site. Well, Alan, number one, you're a chiropractor. Okay? You're not a medic. You're a chiropractor. Okay? And as such, you shouldn't be inferring, by lack of a clear statement to the contrary, that you're not a medic. So you're not providing medical information. What you're actually providing in this video, Alan, is vastly, grossly disinformative, erroneous misinformation regarding various aspects of human metabolism and human nutritional requirements, which I'll cover point-wise for you boys and girls. Well, now, off you go, Alan. But by the way, Alan's got 5.4 something million subscribers. It's incredible. Incredible. Right, anyway, Alan.
How beautiful this apple is.
Well, that's a good start. It's beautiful. Well, completely subjective and nothing to do with whether or not an apple a day keeps the chiropractor away.
If you're not eating apples, you may want to think again after this
No, I won't be thinking again. I still won't be eating apples after this video.
Yes, it's extremely high in fiber,
That's a bad thing.
has vitamin C,
That's probably a bad thing too.
and it has powerful antioxidants.
So does the earth. So does meat. Uric acid.
In the skin, the pectin.
Yes.
That fiber slows digestion from the stomach into the small intestine. This has a low glycemic index.
Glycemic index is completely invalid scientifically. Signal to noise ratio, Alan. It doesn't work. The glycemic index is actually incapable in practice of differentiating one source of carbohydrate from another in terms of its rapidity of the release of glucose to the bloodstream. I've covered that in great detail in at least one video, probably several, on my fine, actually science-based channel. People should go and check that out and find out why it is that the GI scale is a have. Does not work, cannot work, and cannot differentiate between different carbs in terms of the release of glucose, not only just between different individuals, but also within a given individual on a test-retest basis as well. The thing falls flat on its face. It's a failure. It's a propaganda piece of disinformation aimed at a scientifically illiterate public in order to try to justify some carbohydrates as being good while others are bad. Okay.
Low glycemic load. That means
Glycemic load, yes, it is low in glycemic load, meaning the total amount of sugar that will be released over whatever period of time. Yes, that bit's true. But I'll tell you what, it's still vastly higher in glycemic load than is all meat and associated fat. And it turns out that glycemic loading is contraindicated physiologically for human beings. Alan, whoops.
this is going to absorb the sugars in your body slowly.
Yeah, but your body doesn't need to absorb any sugars, Alan, whatsoever. Your body has a process called gluconeogenesis, which renders that body capable of manufacturing all the sugar it requires itself from non-glucose precursors. It turns out, in fact, that the human system would prefer vastly if people would stop pouring exogenous carbohydrate into the body. It is unnecessary. It's contraindicated. It causes glycative damage of all sorts. It causes a thing called the Randall cycle to become hugely activated in a negative way or upregulated in a negative way, such that that person will experience an ever-increasing level of glucose in the blood, hyperglycemia, otherwise known as diabetes. Okay? the human body will not produce so much glucose itself endogenously that it would place its own health long-term at risk. Carbohydrates are unnecessary. There is a risk involved. Ergo, they should be avoided. What's next?
It's not going to put stress on the pancreas.
Neither is eating meat and fat.
Not going to cause insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance, Alan, is a construct. It's a concept. It's an idea. There is no meter that will measure insulin resistance available from any manufacturer anywhere in the world, precisely because it is a construct. The things that can be physiologically measured are things like the level of glucose in the blood at any given time, the glycative damage due to glucose solely, pretty much, of red blood cells, which gives us some idea of the control of glucose in the blood, but not fructose or galactose, over the last 60 days or so. And or we can assay the amount of insulin in the blood at any given time. Look, if we've got really, really flash, really expensive kit in a laboratory situation and some PhDs to run that kit for us, then we can also radio label and trace the production, movement, and use, ultimately, of insulin as well. But nobody's going to be doing that at home. So insulin resistance, no, son. No. Elevated blood glucose is problematic. That is the thing that can be measured using a meter that measures that exact thing, actually. And the cause of elevated blood glucose, Alan, is pouring too much exogenous carbohydrate down your neck. Okay? Now, is one apple going to cause you a problem? Probably not. But add that on top of a whole bunch of other sources of carbohydrates, and you may well be in a very problematic situation. We'll get to that later, though, if it becomes salient and worth talking about in this video.
It's going to help insulin resistance. It's going to make you more insulin sensitive. You see, you need to take this a step further. You just can't look at the sugar. By the way, yes, it has sucrose, it has glucose, and it has fructose. But remember that when you have fructose, with the whole fiber, with the enzymes, with the vitamins and minerals, it's healthy for you.
Nonsense, Alan. There is no evidence anywhere in the literature to suggest that that is so. Absolute rubbish. Fructose is fructose is fructose. And in a dose-response situation, the fructose being released to the bloodstream, it matters not one jot the source of that fructose. Fructose is fructose is fructose. A small amount of fructose, unlikely to be problematic. A large amount of fructose, very likely to be problematic, much more rapidly, much more patently. Okay, stop talking nonsense, Alan. This is totally, completely unacceptable.
If you're getting fructose from boxed cereals and candies, high fructose corn syrup, that's unhealthy for you. And yet,
because of the amount of fructose, not because of the way the fructose is presented to the body. It's nothing to do with anything but dose response.
it puts a tremendous burden upon our liver, and that can lead to a fatty liver. But to take it a step further, the pectin in here is a prebiotic. Prebiotics feed probiotics.
Meat is a prebiotic. It subserves the cultivation of a healthy and balanced speciation of microbiome inhabitants specific to the consumption of meat, such as to maintain a healthful existence in that host over the long term.
Probiotics are in your gut, and your gut works directly with your brain and your immune system. And if you want to stay healthy, you need to have a clean, strong microbiome.
What is that, Alan? Define clean, strong microbiome. Because you'll be doing better than the best minds that are spending their careers working on this at the moment to try and elucidate the situation for us in the science, Alan, you'd be doing better than any of those if you could define a clean, strong microbiome, because nobody hitherto has been able to do that. You are making shit up. Stop it.
And that's what apples can do for you.
Nonsense. There is no evidence whatsoever to support that ridiculous claim, Alan Mandell.
And the truth of the matter is that the American diet...
Oh, the truth of the matter. And now let's have an appeal to authority, the American Diabetics Association, who are a criminally misanthropic organization underpinned solely by their bottom right-hand corner at the end of the tax year, Alan. Nothing to do with public health whatsoever. What's next?
Diabetic Association recommends...
Who cares what they recommend? Science is what should inform us upon what is the most likely thing to lead us to the best, most robust health and longevity. And the American Diabetics Association have no idea about that stuff whatsoever. None at all.
At diabetics, pre-diabetics, people are insulin resistant to
Insulin resistance is still a construct, Alan.
eat apples. And there's a few powerful antioxidants in those apples.
There's also very powerful antioxidants associated with consuming meat and grounding yourself electrically to the earth, Alan. You don't require antioxidant activity from apples to be healthy. I mean, for goodness sake, apples, such that we know them now, are actually a human invention of the last 100 years or so through selective breeding programs. Look at a natural apple, Alan, and see what you find. It's small, dense, fibrous, tart, much, much lower in fructose. What are you talking about?
Like quercetin, that slows down carb digestion.
Yeah, but also not consuming carbs in the first place completely alleviates any requirement to find any substance that would slow down carb absorption in the gut. Wouldn't it?
Helping to prevent blood sugar spikes.
So does eating meat and fat and not carbohydrate-based, plant-based slop, Alan. Much more effectively, in fact.
Chlorogenic acid, which helps the body use sugar more efficiently.
So does not pouring sugar down your neck. Contraindicated, unnecessary, dangerous, poisonous carbohydrate down your neck. Your body produces all the carbohydrate it requires itself from non-carbohydrate precursors. Okay?
And fluorescein, which potentially slows down sugar absorption.
Again, if you're not pouring sugar down your neck, you don't need to slow it down.
And lowers blood sugar levels.
So does eating meat and fat.
And here's the bottom line. You want to eat apples whole. You want the fiber.
No, you don't. You don't want to eat apples whole. You don't want to eat apples at all, and neither do you want any fiber in your enteric system. That's a bad idea.
Fiber is like the magic inside your body.
No, it isn't. Fiber is contraindicated, destructor of enteric function. God, this man has no clues at all. The exact dietary requirement in human beings for plant-based fibers on a daily basis is not 1 single gram ever.
It helps support normal blood sugar levels.
So does not pouring carbohydrates down your neck in any amount from any source.
It helps feed the probiotics because it is a prebiotic.
So is meat.
Pectin. You want to try to avoid apple juice because having the juice is different than having...
If you want to know why to avoid apple juice, see if you can find a video that I made a few years back when I used to work in an apple juice factory. You might find it on another platform, not this one. If you take an odyssey of discovery, you might find it. I think it's called Apple Juice, anyone, ? Check that out. That'll tell you why you want to avoid apple juice.
Having it in the whole state. The fiber and the antioxidants.
Fiber and antioxidants are both buzz terms that have been used to fool people for, well, a couple of generations now about what is so-called healthy for you nutrition-wise. Neither is particularly required. It's ridiculous, Alan. It's just nonsense.
The enzymes, as well as vitamins and minerals.
All the vitamins and minerals required by a human being to be strong, robust, healthy, and have the longest possible lifespan can be found in perfectly adequate proportions in the muscle meats and associated fats of large ruminant animals. Okay.
Because of the refined process. Yes, of course, you want to limit your portions. You don't want to eat 6 or 7 apples.
No, you don't. No, you probably don't really want to eat one or need to. You can probably and get away with it, but does that mean you should do that?
Like you don't want to eat 6 or 7 of any type of fruit. You want to spread it out over the course of the day. That will help sustain normal blood sugar levels.
Just like eating meat and fat does, Alan, once a day. That maintains stable, normal, physiologically appropriate blood sugar levels.
And that will help you tremendously when it comes to your craving, where you're not going to.
So does removing the thing that causes you ongoingly to have cravings in your life, that thing being carbohydrates. Alan.
Crave excessive sugars, excessive foods, because that fiber will give you the sense of satiety.
So does eating a sufficient amount of meat and animal fat, Alan.
A few things I want to say about myself regarding apples.
Oh, Jesus. Anecdotes.
It's made a huge change in my life.
If you say so, Alan.
Yes, I used to eat lots of healthy carbs.
There is no such thing, Alan. No such thing whatever.
Quinoa carbs, kale.
No, all of those things contraindicated in the human diet.
Carbs, spinach carbs.
All contraindicated. Ever heard of oxalate, phytate, tannic acids? Really not.
But carbs are carbs.
Yeah, and they're bad. Okay.
Remember, carbs don't have the fiber, not the live enzymes or the antioxidants.
None of which are required.
They're going to assimilate, digest differently in our body.
That is true.
As a result of too much carbs. Once we store it as glycogen.
Too much carbs in the diet, Alan, to all intents and purposes, is pretty much any at all. In practice, it seems like most people can tolerate and get away with less than 50 grams a day. Some people less tolerant than that. Some people more tolerant than that slightly. There is a standard deviation around this, sure. But that's about where it is. Almost no carbohydrates to speak of.
The excess gets converted into fat.
Yes.
Not only that, increased cholesterol.
So what?
The bad cholesterol.
There is no such thing, Ellen. That's another thing you made up. Or that you're parroting that someone else made up, more to the point, actually. There is no such thing as good and bad cholesterol. False.
Low-density lipoproteins, as well as high triglycerides.
Low-density lipoproteins are not even cholesterol, Ellen. Neither are triglycerides. Low-density lipoproteins are just that. They are a low-density form of protein with some fat associated. And triglycerides, triacylglycerides, are the fat currency, really, of the human body, the storage form, the form the body prefers to oxidize for energy when it's doing that. Good old saturated fat, basically. What's next?
Yes, all of it was high until I started to switch to more fruits, cutting out those excessive refined carbs.
All carbs break down to the same thing, Alan, in the blood, pretty much, except for fructose, which is dealt with slightly differently, sure. All of them are contraindicated in the diet in any significant amount whatsoever. Guidelines have already been provided.
Apples, I never miss a day. It's done wonders for my body when it comes to blood
For your body.
pressure, when it comes to cholesterol.
Cholesterol, Ellen, you clearly don't know anything about whatsoever, so I wouldn't be talking too much about cholesterol if I was you, son. Blood pressure. How do you know that your blood pressure is a result of the consumption of apples in particular? What scientific assessment did you go through to make that ridiculous claim? Shall we wait? Perhaps we should carry on. We'll be waiting all day.
Triglycerides, as well as the way I feel.
Oh, well.
Lots of energy. My microbiome so much stronger.
How do you know, Alan? How do you know anything whatsoever about your microbiome? And even if you have had some assessment of your microbiome undertaken in a laboratory somehow, how is it that you know more about the microbiome than all the very best researchers working in this field for the last X number of years who cannot answer that question for us, Alan? How is that possible?
I'm much more regular. I'm not constipated.
Neither am I, and I don't eat any apples at all, ever, or any other fruit to speak of, ever. I do have the odd plate of blueberries. I know, hand in my carnivore card. Report to the field, not to the field marshal. I am the field marshal. Report to the master chief for administrative correction, head cleaning duty or something, deck mopping, I don't know. But I'm not constipated. My intake of fiber is vastly, hugely underneath what would be suggested by the so-called authorities on this matter. I go through extended periods where I eat no fiber at all for months and months at a time, and it has no effect on my regularity, my bowel function, or anything else. If anything, my bowel function improves when I'm not challenging it with any form of plant-based toxin whatsoever. Because fiber is a form of plant-based toxin at the end of the day. Interesting, isn't it?
It's different, and you will experience it once you start supplementing apples in your diet.
No, Alan.
So I hope you found this video helpful.
No, not at all, Alan. I found it absolutely inexplicably poor, other than actually your qualification is in chiropractic. And that's probably where you should confine your commentary, because it is absolutely clear that you know nothing at all about human nutrition, human metabolism, lipidology, the microbiome, or pretty much anything else in this field whatsoever. You are totally out of your depth in this field. You have no business whatsoever making commentary for public consumption in this field of endeavor. This is not your field of expertise. Go and crack backs, son. How's that?
And remember, eat your apples because your body will love you.
My body loves me for not eating apples. How do you like them apples, Alan? See you next time, boys and girls, when somebody else will be wrong on the interwebs, because it doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon, does it? Shall we have some music? We love our Vivaldi, don't we? 2, 3, 4.